people of Carmel yesterday.
But
Carmel, right?
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think Eve met with Steve, some people of Carmel yesterday.
And Phil.
Carmel, right?
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
Good.
How are you guys? Carmel yesterday. Great.
Dan was
nice to see people's faces
in Toronto.
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
Good. How are you guys?
Carmel yesterday. Great.
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
Good.
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
Good. How are you guys?
Dan was at a blockchain meetup in Toronto.
With all kinds of different colors of skin and background. Go figure. Right? With all kinds of different colors. Getting onto this topic, I've noticed that there's a big trend It's really cool these days to eat hot peppers and do things on YouTube. Onto this topic. I've noticed there's a big issue to start eating hot peppers and doing. I've noticed that there's a big trend. It's really cool these days to eat hot peppers and do more people watch it. Apparently, it's really cool. I've noticed there's a big issue to start eating hot peppers on YouTube. I've noticed there's a big issue to start eating hot peppers. I've noticed and there's people watch it. Apparently, it's really cool these days to eat hot peppers and apparently, I've noticed there's a it's really cool these days to see peppers and apparently it's really I've noticed it's really
some items for the agenda today. So first, we can go through the poll results that you did in the past, Fuzzy. So we did a poll during the last 3 weeks, and there were 73 people that participated. So first, we can go through I'll just share my screen. The poll results that you did in the past. So first, we can go through So we did a poll.
Have share. It's like this little box in the middle. I'll share some green and has all the
So first we can go through we did the poll results in the past. So first we can go through
share. It's like this little
we did the box in the middle. I'll share some green. Basically, blog producers answered this poll. So there were 73% of the people that answered were blog producers. And so the consensus was that this platform should be community owned or community managed. So this is what has been, these are the results from the poll. Also, should the platform be tokenized? So right now, there is no clear consensus yet on if the platform should be tokenized or not. But I think we need to define what type of token economics we are looking for, and when to implement it. Because I think tokenomics are very interesting. It's a good incentive for people to participate and add content and stuff like that. But I think the main focus is just to create the platform with the content, and we need to add the tokenomics later on when we can. But I think it's something that could be very interesting. I think we need to just focus to make sure that the architecture of the platform is done so that we can add the tokenomics if we want to. Did you guys want to talk about the tokenomics aspect of it a little bit, or did you want to go to the poll?
If you don't mind, on this one topic, I was kind of considering this. The base of the tokenomics for a token is what we want to have done, right? Like, what do you want to incentivize, and then also how will you bring value to it? And one of the things I was wondering is, since we're all the types of people who would like, oh, I found this cool thing about learning, I would like to read up on it. We're the types of people who tend to gravitate toward that stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if maybe there would be, a demand for a coin that the community here that runs and streams Hangouts might want to have a consensus on distributing it to one another, and then maybe using it to cover different educational platforms. Like, maybe I send a token in with a tip on this educational ecosystem, and you guys will cover it. Or something like that, where maybe you even get share dropped on by new platforms on this token because you're doing this thing of value. I'm thinking this might be something that you might be interested in. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I have been sitting and thinking about it a lot. Maybe this would be something you guys might have interest in. But with that said, I'll step back.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments about tokenomics on the platform?
Well, so I've been building Bootcamp, and I've been using WordPress, BuddyPress, and this learning management system called Lifter LMS. And then I noticed that it has, all of those things have tool endpoints that other people are tokenizing. So I went to another site, an EOS application that's already running, and I saw that it was using WordPress, BuddyPress, like the exact same thing. So I think that that the current set of tools that I have on Bootcamp is definitely ready to be hooked up.
Okay, that's great. So the other website you were talking about, is that the Tribe, I think?
Yeah, it's Tribe. I just started. I was curious because it activated my little WordPress alarm. I have this little widget that tells me when something is WordPress. So I started exploring it, and I found that it was the exact same tools that I was using on Bootcamp. So the social tool is called BuddyPress, and that, like, if you're on Tribe, that's the thing that lets you make a profile, and then it lets you friend people and send each other messages, and all of that stuff on Tribe is tokenized, and all that stuff exists on Bootcamp already. And then the learning management system has course tracks, so you can get diplomas. I haven't made any of that, but I've just been so busy putting in content. But say for instance, you complete the beginner track and you do all the courses, like you could have a diploma and it said you're a certified EOS user. And then when you get that diploma, is something that you could hook a token to. Completing a course is something that you could hook a token to, and completing a lesson is something that you could do that to too. So so that's just my exploration. I'm not saying that Bootcamp has to be the final form of the cooperative education effort, but I just noticed that it was kind of like sweetly ready to go for tokenization down the road if it was wanted.
Okay, that's great news. Good.
Can real quick, can it be white labeled for any other projects too, essentially? I'm assuming if it's connected to WordPress and BuddyPress, that's...
Yeah, I think, I'm not really a super pro developer, but I'm a pro WordPress developer. So I think there's things where, like the Lifter LMS, I'm using a free version. So I think that it always like will call itself Lifter LMS, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you pay, you can do the white label version, or someone that is sort of better with the code can just go in there and take out the files that refer to WordPress. So it doesn't, so like you can't see that it's WordPress anymore.
So in that case, you might even have more expansive capabilities than. Okay, I'll shut up.
All right. So does anyone else have comments on the tokenization?
But I know, but the other thing that I would say is I know I've mentioned it to Sharif, and I know that Sharif wants it as accessible as possible. So then tokenization would create another, like sort of a barrier. Like the way it is right now, you can just jump on it and read any class. But I guess if it's tokenized, then maybe there's that barrier of signing up and having an EOS account and stuff like that. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's
maybe we have both. Maybe
yeah.
You can have it where there's that hybrid. Like we've got free to play games, right? I'm always gonna go back to the gamification. But in games, they've got that low barrier to entry. But then if you want some of those sweet extras, you either have to do a lot of extra stuff in the game that help the actual community, or you have to just throw down some bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has the LMS has student profiles, and it lets you enroll for every class. But so far, not a lot of people enroll, and I set everything to be free. But basically, that's an event that you could hook to a token. So you could have everybody reading all the classes in bootcamp as much as they want, and then when they wanted to enroll in a class, then they would start getting tokens. Then they would need an account or however that worked. So I mean, it's pretty much dualized the way it is now. Like you can read everything for free, but you can also enroll in the class. But right now, enrolling doesn't really change anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It needs to be very easy to onboard, and it needs to be free for almost all the content if possible. That's for sure. So if we ever integrate any tokenomics, I think we need to make sure that it's easy for users. Maybe in the end, we'll have, let's say Block One has a new wallet and an identity system. Maybe we can integrate that system so that everyone already has an EOS account. They can just join with that account. So it needs to be really easy, because I agree, we don't want to add a barrier for people to learn. So.
Yeah, but I've definitely, I mean, I was pretty excited because I've been using Tribe and I've been posting on Tribe and I really like the profile, and then I recognized it and I was like, wait a minute, I'm building the same thing. And then I investigated it and it was like, so that's definitely what they are using for their platform. They just use those tools in WordPress, and then they, but they have some programmer that is not me that knows how to hook it up to the EOS system.
Okay. All right. So concerning the tokenization, if we go that route, we will need to discuss like what's the distribution. Right? Do we airdrop all the tokens 100%? Do we keep tokens for founders, whatever? This is something that we can discuss. Personally, my opinion would be just to airdrop to all the community, but I know Fuzzy, you had other opinions. Maybe you guys can all speak about that and let us know your input.
I'd go in on this side. I really wouldn't approach an airdrop to the whole community, because you would put the tokens in disengaged community members that don't have an active interest in educating. Also, I talked with Sharif some months ago about the Ignition initiative that's right now. We resonated a whole lot with that, to drop tokens to profiled users, first of all, because they'll eventually just dump them. that's the experience that we had from our first airdrop at Carmel, and where my token, when Moon, when Lambo, you know the stuff. So.
Yes. How did it go with Carmel? Like, was it an air grab or something like that? You need to go on the website.
So you had to, yeah. It was kind of an air grab. Our first version was kind of loose. We let the community only have one to register an Ether address and email, and they used the same Ether address with Andre +1, Andre +2, and so forth. So we stopped it and added a few filters to put their at least their social media accounts. We didn't ask for documents or something like this, just social media profiles, so we can filter better the people who would want the tokens. But even with that filter, to be honest, we're not sure that the people that have our tokens until now are actively interested in buying tokens. So right now we're doing the first version of the desktop app, where the learner is gonna do the tutorial, the challenges. We give them a free product. Isaac also tested it a bit, and Fuzzy. We just give him a website and let him tweak it based on the challenges and the set agenda that he wants to learn. And we want to do not an experiment, but a validation that the people that have our token, for now it's only in Firebase, it's not on the EOS mainnet, but we want to experiment to see if the people that already registered for our token would be incentivized and will actively trade from their Firebase account to the from the learner's account to the developer's account who created the challenges. So that's a whole experiment that we're going to do in the following weeks.
Okay, interesting.
Kind of to this on this topic, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is, and a lot of these things have already been thought of by really intelligent gamers, right? Like people who have degrees in behavioral economics and love games like we do, but they've thought about a lot of these things. And one of the things that I've been really interested in lately is the concept of daily joining up, being like logging in every day, doing maybe a simple task. It could be as simple as like share this update from our community every day on your Twitter account or on this account or any number of these accounts. And if you do that, you're going to get tokens in our ecosystem. Those are the types of things that, like, if I care about something, it's not that hard for me to do. I would be a share drop and I would actually earn it, so I would care about it more, which means it's worth more to me, which means I'm not going to dump it. Price is going to be higher whenever I want to sell. You see where I'm going with that, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been even taking it another step now that Chinte is about to be out. And things that really, really has made me interested lately is the concept of, or if you guys have been around from the very beginning, we were talking about EOS bits and like the bandwidth token idea. You can back your tokens with bandwidth, but they're going to go ahead and do that on the Rex, right? So Chinte, though, offers us potentially opportunities that the Rex can't offer. And that would be like, imagine if I have a DApp and I have people literally lock in EOS for that DApp because they want to see it really go. They really want to see it like being able to make free accounts and doing all these things. And I can kind of like lock them up for like maybe 2 months. And that DApp gives these tokens to us as a share drop, and share drops on like a high percentage, like, 3 times or 4 times as much on the EOS that's been locked up in that contract. Right. Those are the type of things I'm thinking might be able to power some of this stuff too, just as thoughts.
Interesting. And Isaac or Maria, do you have any comments or?
I agree with what you guys said so far about not airdropping and having people earn the tokens. I don't come from like a technical background, so the reason I was interested in this whole EOS education platform was that I wanted to make it easy for like an average person who doesn't have any kind of developer or tech background to kind of find information about EOS and learn about EOS. So the only pro that I really see with the airdrop option is that it would kind of bring attention to the EOS education platform. But like you guys said already, I do see that a lot of people would probably just want to get the tokens and then dump it for like a quick profit. So I do agree with the earning option instead. I think the point Fuzzy made about the like sharing information like on your social media to like earn tokens would be a really, really good option to get a lot of people engaged, just to even get it out there for like a general audience versus like just the EOS network. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Tokens. Oh, I'm sorry. You could even have it where you earn those tokens when you complete a lesson on, say, Carmel. I did this lesson on Carmel and I earned a token, and now I use that token to buy another lesson.
Yeah, so I did actually sign up for the boot camp as well, just to kind of see how everything works. So I think, as you already mentioned, like signing up to like enroll in a course and then getting tokens for that would be a really good incentive for people to want to complete each lesson or each course. Because right now you just kind of click through them and then you can skip through whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say there's all of these incentivizations in the learning management system that I don't use right now, like which I would love to implement. Like there's quizzes, and I've only made one quiz, but I think that it's really I really agree with you guys about earning tokens. If there was tokenization, I think that would be really important. My background is I was a college teacher for many years, a community college in New York City. And I can really see that, like when you have little benchmarks, like passing a quiz, that the quizzes are honestly like my favorite thing in the learning management platform. I love it. It's like, what is blockchain? What is an immutable ledger? And then you just have multiple choice answers. And I personally, as a student, would find that so motivating to have each of those quizzes in every course, and then have it when you get a question right, you get tokens for that. That would be fun.
Nice. Yeah, really great ideas. Yeah, good discussion. So I think like doing an airdrop would be a better option, but maybe like Maria said, when we do an airdrop to all the token holders, we get like visibility. So maybe we could like do a really small airdrop, like 5% of the tokens or 10%, just to get visibility from all the EOS accounts, all the EOS token holders, and then have the majority of the tokens like distributed in the airdrop way. And like, I guess that would be like a hybrid approach. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
I like that.
Yeah, and the cool thing, another idea for a share drop is, what if they're vested until the group that was share dropped on accomplishes a certain task for you? So we can get really creative with these things. And like, really the question is, what is our wish list? Right? What do we wish for that we can put on a list of things and say, okay, if we can get people to do these little steps to reach this goal, this wish list, and we check them off every week that we find something that does get accomplished, or somebody who brings, and we can bring people on who help us too, right? Like, let people know about these people, like you guys. You're crazy enough to be doing this I'm pretty sure you're not making a bunch of money for it. Like, but you're here and you're interested in it. And it's like, that's the gold, right? If we're in a gold mine, that's the gold. guys are the gold. So if we bring on other people and we start saying, we've got these wish lists and these people have helped us achieve it. Now we've created an all-star team who created a wish list and got it fulfilled collectively. And that's a pretty valuable thing right there. But if we do something with share drops and we leverage these different, we recognize that we don't just have to share drop. We don't have to just give tokens. We can give tokens that you now have to unlock. Right? Those things that games do, man. They always do them, and they do them so well because there are brilliant people who sit there and think about it all day, every day. So I'm going to shut up again because I'm getting giddy.
All right.
Well, I remember when I was first getting into EOS, I kind of was lucky enough I live in the same town as Katie Roman, and she sort of guided me through everything. But it was hard, like just, setting up an ETH address and, making sure that the contract was set for the ETH account. Like, you really need guidance. I'm pretty good with computers and everything. And it's hard that everything is so distributed, like you need someone to walk you through it, tell you where to go, join Telegram, etc. So I guess my primary goal for an education program would just be to have everything in one place for someone that has no idea what it is. Say like, this is a starting point, because I think in our internal dialogues, our conversations get so advanced. We're discussing like the subtleties of Ricardian contracts and stuff like that. And we don't realize that there's no door into this world for most people, So because we just keep leveling up. So I think, whatever it is, just something where, someone is like, what's blockchain? I want to know more. And then they just go to one site and they can control, they can enter into it, and then they can learn at their own pace and level up the way that we can, because we're already insiders. But I think that the knowledge, like once you start getting inside the community, the knowledge is kind of this barrier. It's like kind of this insulator, and you don't realize that most people don't know what blockchain is. And if they do, they think of it as Bitcoin, and there's just no way to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's the big gap to fill on the educational side for all the newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go to the next points. So should the block producers pay for this platform? So most of the people that voted said yes. I think that was a clear consensus. So I guess the cost will be split between block producers. And then should the worker proposal fund pay for the EOS education platform? A lot of people said yes. So I guess that is something that when the worker proposal fund is available, we could do a proposal. Are there any comments on those two subjects, on those 2 points? All right.
I think that if we're to bring in something like that for block producers, I also think it's important for us to always just remember as a community that the block producers do have a lot of things that they have to do, and a lot of responsibility too. So giving the love back to them in return for something like this, like maybe giving them a share drop on the block producers who are producing the blocks and paying for this, maybe something to that effect might be helpful, or some way, shape, or form of like, hey, it's voluntary, but if you guys do it, we will give you extra tokens, or something like that. I'm not saying to do it or not, but what I am saying is if that's the route that were to be taken, just to keep the block producers in mind.
Yeah, so we need to talk like all the different incentives that are possible for block producers to participate or to fund this. So giving tokens is an incentive. There's also like EOS Bootcamp is doing right now with all the putting the logos of the people that created the content. That is good also, but we need to think also about the block producers that will only be contributing, let's say, on the dev side. So they won't be adding content, but so you won't see their logos anywhere because they don't have any content. So that's another thing that we need to think about. Okay, so how will we incentivize those people if we don't give them tokens. So that's something that we need to talk. I guess we have a lot of points like this that we'll need to talk, and after this meeting, we can all write those down, all the subjects that we need to think about, like ideas, and then during our next meeting, we will have time until then to think about all those ideas, and then we can discuss during the next meeting. Okay, so that's good. And then, so the next question was, would you contribute to the EOS educational platform funding? So most of the block producers said yes. So majority of the block producers are willing to contribute, but there's a good portion that weren't on that side. So there's no clear consensus yet, but I guess the block producers that want to fund it, they will get the incentive, and the ones that don't want to fund it, they just won't get it. So I think that's fine. And then, does EOS need an online educational platform? So it's clear everyone said yes. So I think EOS definitely needs a free online educational platform where all the resources for EOS will be gathered, organized, rated, translated. It needs to be like one big platform with everything. I don't think it's possible to do this alone. I think we need to regroup our efforts. And I think there's a big need, because right now there's no platform that offer like organized resources. Like when we think about Steam, for example, there's nothing like really organized and rated. So there needs to be some rating. So if there is, let's say, resources or information about like decentralization or stuff like that, we need to see which post is the best one. So people read that one first, so people can rank the post, rank the content, and then the one that's the most relevant goes to the top. And also, there's a clear consensus that block producers need to contribute and be part of this project. They can fund the project also. There's a possibility that the worker proposal fund could be solicited for this project if we need it. And also the token economics is an option that we need to discuss. Like I said earlier, it's not like an urgency. I think the urgency right now is just to create a platform and to give all this information for all the newcomers. And we need to find ways to add the tokenomics, like we said, because I think there's really an added benefit to have the tokens, but we need to make sure that we don't put barriers for people to join. So it must be easy for people to join, easy to create an account, maybe use like the EOS account, like I said earlier, or another platform's account. So we will need to discuss that, but I think the tokenomics is something that we need to look forward, because there's a lot of incentives that are added with that. Like when we complete a course, complete the quiz or something like that, like Isaac said. So yeah, and that platform needs to be managed by the community. So a little bit like Steam, so everyone can post content, everyone can rate it, and then yeah. So that's pretty much the results of the poll. Did you guys have any thing else that you wanted to add concerning the poll?
I do, but I'm going to hold off and wait until somebody else does first.
All right.
That's cool. I mean, it's amazing to see in the EOS community, like 98%, agree that there should be education. Like 80% are willing to donate. I mean, it seems like it has a lot of power. Or now 50%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one other thing that I would like to I'm just going to put it out, because it's something that I've been discussing with other people on other projects for a long time, and it's something that I think is very important for me to remind myself all the time, which is that in the end game, these are kind of like complementary currencies on steroids, and everybody kind of wants to have their own, right? And I see that as a strength. If we can be smart enough, or maybe not creative enough, to find of helping each of those initiatives, right? Because let's face it, like, sure, if what you're doing is is using a certain set of tools, right? What Carmel's doing is using a certain set of tools. They can benefit from one another potentially, right? And one of the things that I would say is, if there is a coin, I would personally say, make sure that it's a vanilla coin that rewards something that all of those other people with their own tokens and their own ecosystems for teaching can benefit from. Mm-hmm. Because if you have vanilla, this is me. I love ice cream, and my son loves ice cream. So if you have vanilla ice cream, you can make all the other flavors with it. If we get too excited and we say we should just, you know what, we could make the best flavor. We're just going to make chocolate. Well, great, I love chocolate too, but we just cut off half of the options for other people who don't maybe like chocolate. Or, you know what I'm saying? So we've got to keep it as like, I would just urge people to consider that, I guess, is my take on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess there's going to be a lot of discussions, I guess, during the next few meetings about the tokenomics. There's a lot of different ways that we can add incentives and stuff like that. I agree that if we can add incentive for all the people with their own tokens, their own chains, that would be very nice. All right, so now let's look at the next agenda items. So we talked about the poll. So yeah, so right now the problem is that there's no central hub for learning resources. That everything is there and everything is searchable with rating and stuff like that. We have participated with EOS docs, with EOS New York. There's it's a big website with lots of resources, but we need to search through them. So it's not like searchable, rateable. So I think there's a big need to fill. So yeah, the objective of this meeting was to get to know each other, our current involvements, our expertise, and who wants to collaborate in the creation of one massive educational platform instead of working in silos on the same community initiatives. So that's what I see a lot. Like, all the BPs are doing wallets, all the BPs are doing like block explorers. Like, I think we need, if we focus efforts, we can do like one big thing. I think it has a lot more power. So yeah, the next thing that I wanted to do is like just do a roundtable of each attendee and quickly talk about your respective educational projects and like just talk about your current project or involvement on the EOS educational side. So I guess, Isaac, you can start with EOS Bootcamp.
Yeah, so I really respond to Fuzzy's metaphor about the different flavors of ice cream, because I realize that, the more I get involved with EOS and the more I get involved with block producer discussions, I realize that we talk to each other all the time. There's so much energy and creativity and so much like training and discussion of nuance. And so that, I think, is my primary goal for being involved in EOS education, is getting us all working together and finding out everything that everyone's doing, all the educational resources everyone is doing, and just unifying them. So that's so Bootcamp has been, I just found the best learning management system I could, and I've just kind of been trying to serve and communicate with as many block producers as I possibly can. And just sort of like people send me resources and I just assemble them into classes. But there's not, if you go through and take the classes, there's a lot of stuff missing. Like there was not very many videos, there's no quizzes, there's no certificates and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, that's my central question, my central challenge is, I think if I had an aspiration for Bootcamp, it would be to break out of the silos, like that everyone's talking about, because literally everyone is making great educational content, and it's all going into different places, and it's hard for the individual person to find an entry point. Like, man, I just talk a little bit with EOS Nairobi, and I've just been communicating with them a little bit on Twitter, but some of like the video samples I've seen, like they have a really professional education incentive. And I just want that to be accessible to everybody. That's all I want. So even if that ends up, I mean, I guess I would like to offer boot camp to the community as that platform. But even if it goes a different direction, it ends up being something else. I think it's really important to get out of the silos because man, when Nairobi, like when I see their recording studio, when I see like the courses they're planning and the incentives that they're doing, like I just don't want that to be, trapped in whatever form they release it. I want there to be a central platform for it. So, man, like I have so many ideas too. Like my background is in art and art history. And so I've started making this course on bootcamp about like sacred geometry and stuff and how it relates to EOS. And I was researching the history of accounting and how accounting, like the first ledger changed society. Like it finally made this exchange of information possible across these siloed city-states. So I'm just excited to be involved in any kind of centralized education platform. I think that's really important, and I think it's important for Block producers to step back and realize, like, we need to be. Talking to each other is important, but we need to be presenting something to the public together. Even from the very beginning, from the very basic concepts. And I've seen things like there's this paper called The Information that just started. And it's just like tech journalism. That's all it is. And one of the editors of The Information wrote a children's book called B is for Bitcoin. And that's like the level that I'm at. I think that's really valuable because it's like we're all passionate about this technology. We all believe that our children will be using it. And so I think that we just need a really basic unified approach where all the Block producers are working together. So, so I'm just happy to be here, and I just want to be in this community facilitating our conversation. And I've had, man, like I've never, when you have these Block producer meetings, and it's sort of like, I realize like all the English speaking Block producers are kind of in one meeting, and they think that it's a meeting of every Block producer, but it's not, because most of the Block producers are in China, actually. So I've just by just hosting boot camp and just being like, we want to do whatever, like just send us your educational material and I'll help you create a class out of it. I started talking to EOS Union and EOS Gravity. And man, those guys are incredible. Like EOS Union, in the first conversation, they sent me 20 courses. And they're like, yeah, we're so committed to education, and we do 2 classes a week, and here's our first 20. And it was like, no one even knows about that. And no one even, for instance, they're not even in this meeting, but they're probably, the most committed, the most energetic to blockchain education. I'm just like,
I met them in China, and I can actually attest to that.
Yeah.
I met their investor and George and their whole team and Bean and all them. And they're like, and it's very strange to see the passion that we think is only over here in a completely different culture, like the exact same way. Like they have it in their eyes, they're like, no, EOS, like this is going to be where all this blockchain stuff really pops off. We want to be right here, right now.
Yeah. So I think education is the way to, we're talking about silos, like each Block producer team is competitive with each other. So they're kind of like, oh, what can I do better than them, or what? And then, but there's global silos too. There's like silos of language. So I think that's what I want for the education program is just to be like, hey, this is collaboration for everyone, which is what the spirit of the EOS project is anyways. and let's just all work together and make an entry point for anyone speaking any language.
That's the only downside of the incentive model and behavioral economics going on within the network is you get a lot of front running, people who will be the actual leaders of thought and ideas versus the people who are eager to attach themselves and usurp and take that knowledge and present it as their own. And we've seen a lot of that in the network with different block producers. There'll be actually the guys doing the work behind the scenes who are saying, we need to do it this way, we need to do it that way. And then there are groups that are in those groups, like biz dev types, who will go run out, take that message, and then act like it's theirs. And it's really not their thought leadership. And people in the network know the difference. These strong personalities like me, Alex, like we're opinionated, old school motherfuckers that have been on the web for 20 years. We're not always going to a 20-year-old, we're going to seem like divisive assholes. But then when you see the application and the execution, you're like, oh, that's why he's like that, because he does shit surgically the right way, at a high practitioner level. And then you have a lot of people where this is their first blockchain and they might have been in front-end dev or technology for 4 or 5 years. They don't have the insights of someone who's been in tech for 20 years. So you have a little bit of ageism, you have a little bit of hyper-competitiveness, and things that tend to overcome that are community initiatives that benefit the token holders.
Yeah.
Be that education or whatever. And I hope we continue. We don't lose the pre-mainnet love fest that we all experience, that we try as a community, even if we don't always agree with each other or we have different vantage points, that we do make a concerted effort. Our situation is like we started EOS tutorials back in, I believe, March, April of this year. And we had teamed up with EOS Austin, EOS SLC, and EOS Detroit. Well, we all got busy as fuck. I was working on the referendum contract, most recently EOS Portal UI, and Eugene was working on Ghostbusters. I mean, those are arguably 3 of the most critical projects in the ecosystem. We needed to put our time towards those. Now that our time is freeing up, since our partnership with OCI, they are going to have certain content in our channel in EOS tutorials that is they don't want published everywhere. They want funneled through those channels, so the lead goes to OCI. We have other open source content that's just token holder stuff that we would gladly share or give away. That's our only issue, is carte blanche sharing everything on our site. We probably couldn't do because of strategic partnerships. And you have to understand, I mean, OCI deals with NASA. These are $500,000, $1 million contracts. So if we put out something that Phil and his team wrote that everyone wants to copy and source, they will come after you and shun your ass for taking that content because it's their right. Like they invested their commercial interest and they're not in the love fest. They're here to make money. So, and that's okay because we need stewards who literally developed half the software like Phil and his team to give us that source information. Is that a competitive advantage over the other platforms? Maybe for like 20 of the technical documents, but that doesn't mean the rest of the token holder stuff that we do, we couldn't share. So that's our only gotcha. And I just want to be straightforward with the whole group that we want to share some of our content that we've written, particularly the token holder onboarding, but we don't want to give away like OCI's content and then Phil and then be mad at us. It's like, hey, why is this on 15 different platforms? This is our IP. You know what I mean? So it's not that they probably wouldn't give away some of that content. They would certainly share with the community, but they would want to gate some of it. So that's my dilemma, is how do we deal with that?
I would say just talk to them about having a time when they can release it later on. I mean, there's always a period of time when property kind of becomes... Maybe
it's like time-based. I got you. It's after like a 6-month, 8-month period, we can release it.
Or give them like a 3-year one. Who cares? The thing is, there's other brilliant people thinking about this stuff. So it's up to them to partially make that decision too. You can't always protect it. You know what I mean?
Isn't that okay too, Fuzzy? Isn't that okay too that like Boot Camp and some of the other platforms that even EOS Docs, that we might all have a little section of 30% of our content that is not open, and that's why people come to us individually? Like, is that against the initiative? If like, hey, we share most of our content, but this little section is kind of, you got to come to us to get that.
I'm going to tell you my take on it. My take on it.
I know Warwick and them are like that with some of the EOS Doc stuff. EOS Nation and them are like that. want.
Well, here's the thing, guys. Like,
not all of it, but some of it. You know, there's a section.
You guys have to eat, right?
Right.
You have to eat, right, Steve? And great teachers need to eat. And what's the one thing that we always find with great teachers? They generally want to give it all away. They generally are like, I don't need to eat. And it's like, no, dude, you need to have a few things. So like,
well, Phil and them I've already done that for 30 years. So they're,
I guess my point is that I think that we as a community need to recognize that good people need resources too. Right. And they're going to try to do it in a certain way. Like, we should not judge because we might be free.
Right. Like, is OCI bad? Is OCI bad for wanting to funnel deal flow and to keep contracts going so they can fund and audit free community projects and workshops?
Exactly. Like, you know, like if they turn around and start promoting a horrible stuff, I might be like,
right. Well, they never do. Yeah,
but like if they're doing good, that's my take.
The documentation in the EOS developers portal. If y'all didn't know that stuff in the EOS developer portal, half of it was written by Phil's team. The stuff we source and look at is the highest standard right now. So the stuff that Phil is going to create with us is going to be epic, and we want to share a lot of that, but not all of it. He does want intellectual property rights over what he releases, which I don't blame him, because why would people go to your workshop if you could just get it all for free? And that was his argument. We'll give it most of it away, but some of it we will keep as intellectual property. And is that okay? Like, can the group with these different projects keep a section and not be shunned as the group? Can that be like a standard?
My concern, my only concern with that, honestly,
like, give it all away, everything, you know what I mean?
Like, yeah. My biggest concern would be if we start taking approaches to standardization and stuff where it like where Phil and them can have their proprietary solutions too, but if we hinder a free market of other ideas that could potentially, that's where I start to get a little bit concerned. But obviously, we know that the world.
Well, you keep copyrights over your forum.
Yeah, I have it right now. The reason,
and I don't blame you, because people will go rip those forums, and then why are they going to go to you?
Well, they're not going to go to me eventually. I have a plan for them, but I've learned sometimes copyright necessary to do what you need to do, even though
so you understand so you understand my point. It's all good. I mean, we always
it's a gray area, but we always have to like ride that wave.
I guess I'm trying to point out is there a cap standard for the group for education for the percentage that you donate to be part of the program? Like, usually in most programs, it's like there's always a standard. Is it like, hey, if you're only giving us 10% of your content for this initiative and you're keeping 90% to funnel back into some commercial lead funnel, maybe that's not in the spirit of this initiative, and let us know when you're looking at sharing more. It's just, you're basically sharing 5 articles to funnel people back to your competing solution. But if it's like, no, you're giving away 60-70% of your content that isn't already done on this platform, but there's a percentage that every channel can keep to keep that value. I did not hear that in any of the conversations. I'm just trying to bring it up with the group.
Well, and you kind of have to bring that up because, let's face it, you guys all exist in a world where you need money. And one of the things where I'm trying to make it clear to people is like, I think we should also not be afraid to reach out to Block One and their VCs and like say, hey guys, there are certain ways of helping bring people together. And one of these ways would be like a pool of capital that is for this specific project. And it's like, it could be something as simple as, hey, here's all of the different learning platforms that are featuring EOS, that are really focusing on EOS. And then here are the level 1, 2 ones that kind of focus on them, but you're not going to find focused content on. Like, maybe just having something basic like that at first would be a good idea, because then my take on it is we want to make sure that you guys get to have your own playground, because you might build the best one and then Bob might build one that's better in this one specific way. And you're like, oh, Bob, what the heck did you do? Thank God you exist. Thank God you did it.
The more I think about it, like a tokenomic model, but then it goes back to Carmel is already doing that. And that's I feel bad of us creating this entirely other platform that directly competes with the good nature, the larger platform that Carmel is trying to build. But that tokenomic model would fix this problem, because then the content creators who create this content could feed it into the system, monetize that for usage, and then offset that cost or concern. So we're not worried that your platform ranks over their original content and someone else is getting more clicks because you're monetizing it both ways. You know what I mean?
And you can also potentially make different projects funnels for each other, right? So you can say like, oh, would you like this kind of experience? This is a partner. And if
this is a situation where cross-chain tokens would solve this problem, because whether it was Carmel, whether it was Beyond Bitcoin or whatever support level or reward system you want to play into, you could still interact and give that credit, but it's up to the user. So they could say, I really support Carmel. They made this content happen. And you could force funnel that value add into.
Well, here's an interesting thought for me. And this is just something I'd like to bring up, and maybe or may not be relevant, but I think it is. The idea that if I create content and I want to teach, I probably want to get it onto every platform I possibly can. Right? And if there's a way of doing that and leveraging these various platforms and user experiences to accomplish something like that, that would be, in my mind, the ideal.
I'll tell you what it looks like to me, and I think the whole group would agree. If we're talking because that's the only way to fix this problem, Mike, and you've been saying that from the very beginning, is you have to have cross-chain tokens because you've got cross-platform, cross-DApp, people supporting stuff. And then like your community initiative, say Carmel sponsors the content, every like is tied to a cross-chain token that basically creates, an inflation amount that pays that value back to that respective provider through like a cross-chain token that collects value based on the likes, based on the hits, based on the engagement. So Carmel can keep its value and its content, and it would be just like they're absorbing Carmel's content on your platform, on this community platform. And I think that it may take a little bit longer, but by solving that problem, we basically solved the collaboration problem with the entire network.
Well, how cool would it be, really honestly, Steve, how cool would it be for me to go onto a platform, do something, and earn tokens from multiple different learning avenues?
Right. If you were like on the Carmel page, you would like it, engage with it, and that inflation amount would accrue into whatever, and it would be paid back to your wallet for the account that you had registered on. So you log in with Scatter, and it would just feed you those tokens based on your engagement. It might be very little, like Steven. It's not like a lot, but depending on your stake, it could add up. You know what I mean? I'd see that as a way to not compete with Carmel, to still include Carmel, and they could have a prominent bug on their content where at the beginning and end of the content it says sponsored by Carmel, like this content. And then that's added.
And they could even have links to be like, oh, would you like to do the rest of this? Go to,
Go to Carmel. So as sponsors, there's both an incentive model and a way to protect content, and even down to the HTML and the DOM level, making sure that we actually have you can have a original, the page that it's originally from. There's a directive, and we want to make sure that we point each piece of content to where the original piece of content where it originated. So
well, and go ahead.
Yeah, concerning all the platform, basically there was going to be two types of content, I think. So the more techie content, like Carmel and all the dev portals and stuff like that, and what OCI is doing. But there's also going to be content for like how to create an account, all the how-to for all the tools, and also basically all the content will be free, but for all the techie stuff, we need to put everything on there. So the courses for OCI or whatever, we say, oh, they have they have this course, and that's what they do, and this course can be rated on our website on this platform. So the OCI courses are rated and the caramel is rated, and everything that's, even though I don't want to
canonical
not put
URL is what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah, we can add our URLs. So if
canonical, there needs to be what's called a canonical URL, and that tells you that a canonical URL is a directive and is a DOM level directive, the document object model, the browser, that basically tells the search engines that this piece of content originates here. If you go Google it, canonical URLs, it's just a directive that we can put on these pages and the DOM output. I'm a UX guy, so I think a lot about this stuff. And there is a very specific technical way to do this, and we know the people in the ecosystem to make this happen. So I'm 100% for this initiative. I just think that there's it's a best in class of everybody. We need a smart contract from, Caesar or, Quesarito. We need Fuzzy to think a lot about how tokens would be issued, whether they would be leveraged on, bid shares, or if it would just be an on-chain, like official. What I would like to see is an official token that's directly related to the EOS.io account versus just a regular public account, because those are like the official DEX level tokens, and that would raise the value as DEXs roll out. So, coming up with a cross-chain token model for Carmel basically would be issued by Docs, Bootcamp, all things EOS, Project Carmel, EOS Nairobi, EOS Tutorials, like all 7 or 8 major public platforms would have a cross-chain token. And then that token would be pegged by engagement. And then there would be canonical URLs that would point back to the original piece of content. So we'd still get the benefit of onboarding people to that little 20-30% of our content that may be commercial, or we may be able to monetize to pay our teachers. So we got to find like that synergy where everything overlaps, where it's good for everyone. If it just funnels 80-90% of our content into one central platform, I doubt that without a tokenomic model or a native token model, I would see that being adversarial or counterproductive at some point.
Agreed.
So we just have to face that up front. And like, I'm from Texas. I'm the type of person that just, let's face the hard stuff up front. Let's talk about the really tough stuff or things that we would be adversarial about later. Let's, as a group, just put all that up front. You know what I mean? Fuzzy's incentive, and he's always open about this, is to create network effects and play with his understanding of different tokenomic models and incentive models with, like, particularly cross-chain tokens. He's really big about that. I mean, he nerds out on it. He wants to do it, and he gets some benefit from it. But it's also just like him exploring, just like we explore this educational stuff. He's very interested in like applying his knowledge, and some of the stuff he's done has worked. So we might listen to him about cross-chain tokens or incentives, more than we know about it. But some of the people here might be better educators. It might be more knowledgeable about, how to build an educational platform or community stuff. And it's like, how do we place everyone? Traditionally in any kind of committee or community initiative, you place people who are the absolute best at what they do in a specific role. You know what I mean? And they lead that part of the committee, and they come back and bring their findings. There's a group decision made, and then it's all agenda based, and you may only have like 2 meetings a month or 1 meeting a month even, but it's very focused. It's an hour or 2 meeting. It goes through every single little thing, and then you recap, you give everyone deliverables and timelines, and then you come back to the next month, and anyone that runs into any blockers or any problems communicates that through a Trello board. If some of you are familiar with Scrum, I'm sure Andre and Swandayo and probably Vincent might be familiar with like Scrum boards and Kanban boards, where you have like doing current, you have in progress, and then you have Icebox or in queue, or archived, depending on, and it's very simple. And that's my suggestion, just as a 50,000 view. How the hell do we organize this?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I want to do that. I'm just saying,
to be honest with you, I take the step of here's what I'm gonna be completely honest. We don't have $4 billion. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to look at it like this. If we can start small, and we're just walking into this dark cave, kind of plot the first 5 feet, figure out if we're going to fall to our death within that first 5 feet, we go forward a little bit at a time from there. And for me, that would be, I would say, one of the most important things I heard, I think, came from Sharif Sharif. I hope I said it right. But it came from Sharif when he said, I see all these people who are all over the place doing the same thing, and they have different strengths. And then, Steve, you basically summed up what I was going to say about what Sharif said, which is, what do? You find the people who do the best at certain things, you put them together with a certain goal. And I think that something that we can probably agree on here is that it would be important it would be nice to have just a page, even just an HTML web page with a couple little pictures on it that show the current places where people can go to look up on things, and maybe allow the people who have those educational resources and assets to submit it to be theirs to be added. And then we can maybe even, like, once we have that, we have a contact for it, right? And then we can start assessing what resources do these people have. Like Nairobi, they obviously have a team that does better than I do on my weekly hangouts for a pretty, content, right? We should probably kiss their butts and say, hey, you guys are really good at this. We probably would like to bring you on board for some, right? We at least want people to know that you exist. Do that. If we could do that, I think that would be the first thing that I would say. And then we can start digging into more of the real deep stuff, because we'll have more insight from more of those people. You guys agree on that? Does that feel like I'm being crazy, or should I?
That's a great first step.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I like to keep it to a short, actionable point, because I obviously can go into a world of ideas that I get lost in. So if you guys think that's a good one, and when would you guys like to do these? You brought up a great point, Steve. Should this be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? What do you guys think we should do? I would like it to be closer to weekly personally, but it's all up to you guys.
I think if you have clear directives and you have a clear project outline and you have the right communication channels, a monthly, longer monthly, like, an hour and a half, like 2 hours to go through all the agenda items and address everything with the contributors, is more feasible probably with everyone's schedule. More potent meetings, and then the rest is breakout, just in like chat and committee. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's like in my experience, because every week meetings sometimes can actually drown down progress because some things take longer. That's just my own experience, but that's just my opinion. So,
yeah, one standpoint that I'm going to bring to this, and I don't know where you guys stand, and Steve, feel free to give your input on it afterwards. One of the reasons I do like weekly is because it gets in everybody's head, this is weekly. And then the second one is for people who are streaming it, you never know when some other nerd like us is on the YouTube and going, I wonder who's doing something cool with education, and is actually typing the word education in the search box and might see us. So those are the only two things that I would say. Obviously, they might not be a big deal, but just that's a thought on my point. And then the one other thing that I would say is, would it take a week for us to get a website up, do you think, if I could help fund somebody to help? Because I sure as heck couldn't make a pretty one.
We can do that, if that's okay.
That would be wonderful. I think that, and then have a weekly for just that one. Like next week, we find out if that's done, and then we can discuss further, like we do it monthly, or does that sound okay to you guys?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share my screen real quick? I just
of course.
I tried to share it, but it won't let me.
You got technology.
Why you hating, fool? All right, so here is what I was talking about.
Okay, nice.
This is like a Kanban development board. You would have like basically, project brief. You would have like your committed backlog, whatever version or current. This is basically, currently working on, and this is, finished. And then this would be like an icebox or an archive. And there's many ways to approach a Kanban, you can see. But usually it just falls into like 3 channels. Like, what the hell is this for the person who doesn't even know what they're, is just coming onto the project? Like, what people are actively working on at the moment, what has been finished or is ready to be rolled out to production, and then what has been archived or iceboxed that is just has too many blockers and has been prioritized later in the queue. And then you usually have like a strategy worksheet that gives deliverables, quarter by quarter, week by week, to particular people, channels, time. You know what I mean? You can even have like logins for high level people, especially if it's just a low target site. If it's just like some WordPress site or something, you can share amongst 5 or 6 people. Pretty, the security people would hate me for this, but it's just a reality, because you try to send people links to everyone already knows this. When you're trying to share logins and coordinate promotions amongst teams, the number one thing that wastes time is where is the fucking logins for basic stuff like Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what this is for. This is not for like main website logins or anything, but just baseline. You could also use LastPass and share that to the group and share like a group, however you want to approach that. We just have it for flexibility. An overview of like the project. This would be either, we usually have this for like clients, but you could apply this to like the other Ethereum platforms. Like, who are the top platforms and influencers? How do they operate? You know what I mean? Like, what are the hot topics at the moment that people, so the whole team is on the same page. You'd have like core messaging, like key messages that the overall community wants to bring together, and it really it's paint by numbers. So you guys don't even have to think about what to do. Just fill it out. Just answer the question. You know what I mean? Like, we've made it very, very easy in this dashboard. Personas, typically what type of users you're actually acquiring and how you onboard them. And what their user stories are, their needs, maybe even income, employment level. You can get really granular if you use analytics. We could even use, Pickwick as a self-hosted analytic platform, so we don't ever use any third parties to protect our users, and then even flush our data every 90 days. So we still get the benefits of user experience, knowledge, and data, but we don't actually house that data are collected on any individual user through a third party like Google.
You know what, Steve? Maybe
crypto people hate analytics. They hate it. Like, if you say Google, they're like, no, it's the devil. So, but the reality is, for learning and onboarding, you would need some analytics. So there's platforms like, I think they changed their name, but Pikwik is now Matamo. And it's a free analytics platform that we could use to get Google Analytics level knowledge. You know what I mean? But it's self-hosted. We're not giving that data to a third party. Anyway, so that's just a quick overview of maybe even the content audit. We could go through and try to audit as a group what URLs and content that we're contributing here, and make sure that there's no overlap. You know what I mean? So there's like a coherent content strategy for the actual pages of the site, even 301 redirects. So if we're like redirecting that content, or it's been made legacy, we have some audit history, of like where that goes now. What's the new URL? What's the old URL? So anyways, that's just, I'm a
Steve,
user experience content strategy.
I think there's something, I think one of the things that you'd be really great at would be consulting with all the different BPs that are doing different educational things that we're bringing together. That might actually, like, you've got a little back tools that we can.
Well, I laugh because you gig on me and give me a hard time, but I have a legitimate career outside of crypto. I'm a keynote speaker at Big Design, at like PubCon. I mean, I'm a person who's spoken for the last 10 years, user experience and marketing, like professionally, and I've been doing it 20 years, like on paper, making money professionally doing it. So,
well, please don't take it wrong.
Stuff.
I'm actually pointing out a strength right now to try to say that I think that might be helpful to use you on that if you're interested. So I'm not like giving you hell or anything, honestly.
No, I was saying in general, you give me a hard time, like, hey, you're new to crypto, buddy. You've only been around 2 or 3 years. I've been in this long. Not saying that, but everyone in crypto has that, like, I don't know what it's called, like imposter syndrome, because we're all figuring this out. And I'm still relatively new to crypto. I haven't been in crypto like 5, 7, 8 years like some of you guys. So I've only been in it for years.
You know, my take on it is crypto is very similar to games. And gamers are pretty much like have been groomed for crypto for the past 20 years.
Right.
I actually believe that a lot of this stuff is not new. We just have to remind ourselves some of the things we've forgotten. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you realize everyone's figuring it out because it's only really a 10-year-old concept. So whether you got in 2 or 3 years ago or 8 years ago, we're all pretty new. And in 10 years, we're all going to be old school anyway. So
yeah, I think that this is really like, I think that some of these tools that you have in your toolbox would be very valuable for us to leverage to bring to these different educational platforms and the different movements. So do you guys agree that we get the page going? We get the list of those people. We start kindly and very nicely nudging them to say, hey, join the list of other nerds who are interested in this. And maybe we can start sending you messages about the things we're wanting to do and maybe even invite you to join us. If you guys think that's a good actionable item for us for just to sit on for this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can filter all of them to Steve to show his bag of tricks. And they'll be like, holy crap, I'll use all of those too. And then we'll just empower all of them on that front.
I think it's a combination of what I'm saying is effectively the discipline of it's called content strategy. And it's a discipline within user experience. There's information architects, there's user experience, UI designers, there's content strategists. And content strategists deal heavily with like content, organization of content, technical SEO considerations, keywords, on-page like optimizations, like the structure of the actual content, the flow of the content. So what I would try to suggest is just having a well-defined process for the group and guidelines that you follow. So we don't like paint outside the lines and the end product is pretty coherent. And I think that there is a way to take, like I said, like a minimum, whatever we set as a group as a cap for content to take participation in this initiative. So it's like, hey, if you're, like I said, if you're keeping 90% of your content, you're only giving us 10%, it's not in the spirit of this initiative. So we're not going to put up the effort to set up a cross-chain token, put in all this time and resources to onboard you, if you're not sharing, if you're not in the spirit of the rest of the group. But is that bad too? Is that exclusionary? This is a debate. I don't know the answer to that. Y'all have to.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to tell you why my theory on it is going back to the vanilla ice cream. We don't need to come up with those answers. We let a bunch of brilliant people who like to play with this stuff. They literally don't even consider it work. Their wives are saying, stop doing this so much. Or their husbands are saying, stop doing this so much. You need to do something else too. We bring those people on and we let them do this stuff, and we can kind of be here to help and put something together where they all get noticed. And I think as we move forward, we'll find a lot of the answers, and we'll also find people who can help us with it. That way
anybody can participate. If you're putting in 10%, 80%, 90%, it doesn't matter. You're contributing to the project. You will issue a user issued asset and a cross-chain token to reward them for their interaction. And someone will set up a smart contract on EOS to translate that value and issue that to the individual account. You Fuzzy today are going to take the initiative. If I take the initiative on the structure and the content strategy, you would take the initiative on the actual user issued assets and the cross-chain tokens that would reward these people, because that's probably like a $12,000 to $15,000 minimum smart contract. Somebody's got to pay for that. Unless you just want developers who will contribute. I can't foot the bill on that. That's the only other component to what we're talking about. If we want to leave this meeting with meat and actually walk away with like, these are our action items and we have a clear path to monetization that respects everyone's parameters, sounds like a great framework, but who is going to do that portion? Well, that's kind of like the glue, that's what makes this all work. It's like,
I think we need to get the input from all of them. All the nerds that are currently out there, I think we need to get them on board, or as many of them as possible, to discuss those and define those parameters. Once we've established where those parameters are, I think we have a lot better.
Well, we know kind of what it would look like. We know it would be some mechanism like that works similarly to your cross-chain token approach.
Yeah, but you remember, there's a saying, I know just enough to be dangerous.
Well, that incentive model, right? You're not a programmer, but you're already actively doing this on projects. You're already like actively working on cross-chain tokens, so you know how to take like a Carmel token and effectively pay for an interaction. You know, your engineer.
I know that there are ways to do it. I need to learn more about
your engineers already do stuff like that, so just get them to port over that code.
I wish it was.
I get it. You want us to share our code, but you don't want to share yours.
Oh no, dude! I'm pretty sure almost everything's open right now. All of the code
on GitHub. Cool.
Yeah.
No private repos.
But I do have a private repo for one thing. But obviously, you know, I've given so much of my money away to these projects that I feel fair to say that release when I want to. Right. But yeah.
I think that's the missing piece, though. I'm just pointing it out. If we want to get,
I won't disagree with you. And Steve, what I will say is I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that I don't think that I alone will be the single arbiter of all those. And I think a lot of value that I want to grab from other beautiful minds that don't even know that I'm searching for them yet. And you guys are searching for them yet. And Vincent,
so there might be, I got you. So there might be like a developer who comes up.
There might be somebody who says, Fuzzy, that idea is brilliant, but it's stupid because of this. And I'll go, oh, wow, I love you. I'm so glad you're here. And that's what I'm hoping that we make sure that we don't forget them. And Vincent, I'm going to shut up because I will talk to Steve all day.
Well, this is the nut of the problem, though, guys. Like, if we really want to talk monetization of the content across channel partners, we need a cross-chain token. Like, that's the gist of it. So,
or maybe a DAC, or maybe an EOS educational DAC, where, you know, all the educational DACs are housed.
Right.
These are things that might not be popular, and I will discuss them with you guys gladly anytime you guys want to. As long as I've got
the two ways that you can avoid vote buying accusations is that if you had a DAC, we were collaboratively sharing dividends through a DAC, then that could be argued that that is a form of collusion. You know what I mean? It separates it, it makes it transparent, but having individual cross-chain tokens that are only issued to that person keeps those in silos, which could, you know, you could say there's no common incentive. So I would say a really just heady way to think about it, we might want to avoid a DAC, and cross-chain tokens would be more desirable for that specific reason. I'm with the EOS tribe.
Well, you would have to have cross-chain tokens if you have a DAC, or another DAC, right?
Right. You've got EOS, Lenny from EOS Nation here, EOS Detroit. If we were in a model where we were sharing revenue, I think that could be problematic. I'm just putting it out there because it's been brought up before on other projects.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm definitely not advocating that. And I hope that, but what I'm hopefully advocating is that we form an initiative to the people who are working on these ideas and them all to come to the fore with their ideas and let the free market choose. But we enable that. Try to bring those ideas together into
absolutely. Just those two problems I wish the group would think about coming out of this meeting is, one, what is the tokenomic model? I would suggest my recommendation would be a cross-chain token to keep any collusion concerns or dividend splitting concerns as a group amongst VPs. That would bring more VPs in to share their resources. And then the other problem would be, how do we who is going to create that mechanism to make this a reality? Because that's what will spark people to kind of pile in my opinion.
Is your definition of a cross-chain token, are you meaning like a new DAC? Like
a settlement token made for this project. A settlement token that was made for this project that was just nothing but something to keep track, a ledger to keep track of what the value was off of a similar Steemit model. Their engagement with a piece of content, the upvote, how many hits did it get, and it would algorithmically factor all that together to give it a score and then a dividend. And then that would be settled out in their native token of choice whenever they sign up. So they would say, here's my EOS wallet. This settlement token will translate that value my native token.
Okay, so you're talking about like a side chain type of capability.
I don't know if that would be a side chain.
Or it could be a cross chain.
That could be done through a smart contract on EOS. What I'm talking about is you can have a settlement token that's not fungible. That's just like a settlement token, basically, to translate that value to individual wallets that translates that value to a particular token. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100% agree.
Token would also need to be liquid in order to have any exchange value. So there's another problem. If you're creating an additional token, is that really necessary? So these are headier problems further down the road. I'm just pointing it out early. Like, what do we do about that to make it work? To make everyone, to not compete with Carmel, to not like directly have just another educational token, but a token that can translate to Carmel, or even beyond Bitcoin or well shares or whatever they want to use. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't want to compete with like big platforms like Carmel, and absolutely on the developers side, there's a lot of information, a lot of resources right now, a lot of courses and stuff like that. I think we need to, on our platform, we need to show all these different initiatives from like Carmel and stuff like that, and just rate them and show if it's free or not, and then people can just click on them and go on their website and like do the Carmel tutorials and stuff like that. I think right now this educational platform can't compete with Carmel. Like Carmel, they have like
it's promoting
so many developers and stuff like that. So we want to collaborate and like fill the gaps. Like Carmel is filling a gap right now. Let's not try to fill that gap right away, So I think we need to fill all the gaps that other people aren't doing, and then showing and rating everything that the people are doing right now, and putting that all accessible on our platform, so people can click on the Carmel website, they can click on the OCI website, and click on whatever. So. And all these needs to be rated on the website. So if there is a free educational guide on, let's say, how to start your EOS node, how is it rated compared to the paid version of the video on another website? So if we can just rate all the resources and just put all the resources links on the page. So I think for all the tech key stuff, that's how we should start. And for all the rest, like how to move your tokens, all the simple courses, people will just put all their videos on there. So I think that's like the strategy we should try to do right now.
But what you're talking about, Vincent, and I really like this, is effectively a content strategy. You're saying, hey, what content exists? This is why in the discipline of content strategy, you do what's called a content audit. So that content audit tab that I presented, we would have like the busybodies here in the community who are list kind of like spreadsheet people and love that kind of stuff, to just dig in and categorize every single piece of existing EOS content. And then you would label it. Is it legacy? Is it like outdated? Is it high value? Is it technical? You would give it a label, and then you would make notes on it. Like, exactly. Where did it originate? And then you would even have an outreach contact to that piece of content, so you would know who the person in control of that content was. And that would inform the entire initiative, because you would then know after that process. And that's what I suggest our very first step is let's do a full audit of every stitch of content over the next 30 days as a group, and categorize it, put it into an item, and then try to say, how could this all be organized better, in our platform? And then, what is our strategy to actually rolling that out? Who is going to post it and optimize it? What platform are we going to use? And all those other things. That's like a more organized way to apply this. Essentially what you're saying is, let's not do the work twice. That's exactly. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's very smart. So.
Yeah, so I think we need to list all the current platforms, all the content platforms. So we got let's say EOS Bootcamp, all things EOS, the Carmel, EOS Docs. And then once we have all the list, we can write what do we like on these platforms? What do we don't like? And then if we want to start, and do we want to start a new website, a new platform, or can we start using one of these platforms, or just merge them together? Like, what can we do? Do we have to start fresh from scratch?
The one thing to do is ask the community to instantiate to put forward an initiative to provide JSON objects and APIs for all the content, just like Block One has through their platform, because you can pull in because educational content changes so much. If the maintainers of this content had a data standard, had like an API standard, then it can be pulled in dynamically through the educational platform and do all this stuff kind of automatically. And as they updated their content, it would update on the platform, and we would just be housing it and redirecting a portion. You could actually put a cap limit on the amount of characters. So like 800, or 800 words or something, or 600 words, it would cut off and put a README link back to their original content. So we don't have to actually put a lot of energy into maintaining content. The goal of this initiative is to help bring people into the ecosystem, organize it, and access. Access.
Yeah, everyone's doing.
Going to monetize it if they are on this platform and they do log in, and more people are coming to this, and the content is ranking over others because this collective effort organize the content faster.
Yes.
Then there's even a way to monetize that for the group so people aren't salty. Like, oh, you rank over me. It's like, well, you're getting paid for it. I mean,
and there's even a way of making it so you can use the platform as a way of earning tokens from various other platforms, right? And who knows? You might even have it where people want to start, hey, I need people to do tutorials on my DApp. You might have all kinds of cool things that pop up. Yeah.
Incentives, right? People like, giveaways and stuff, bounties for educational stuff that has gaps. I mean, there's definitely, let's be real, guys. Like, if it's just one BP organization or just one commercial organization, the problem with the current educational climate is that there is not enough resources to do this big of like an educational push. We can all cover sections, like we're doing a lot of token holder education, but the technical education is slow moving. It's like freaking 6-7 days per content item, and just to amass 4 or 5 now that we put a lot of time into, and we're like, crap, like this is going to be, but you look at the force multiplier of 15 different independents and, BP groups. I do see the logic in a centralized platform. I would just suggest that we have a tokenomic model and that we could pull that in through JSON objects. So this organization doesn't have to maintain it. That's another problem. If you guys create this monster, if you know anything about managing content, especially educational content, it's a monster. Like, stuff gets outdated quickly.
Well, I want to make it clear, my initial goal might be, if this is the goal that everybody wants to take, that's fine. I just want to let you know that my initial goal was far smaller. And there's nothing wrong with scope creep as long as we know our resources and what we have, and we don't overburden ourselves to that point. But I'm not afraid to go in that direction if we seem to get that kind of.
Well, what's the alternative? I mean, just for everyone watching, what's the alternative? Like, how would we go about this? Just link to other resources and that's it? Not even having full articles, just literally, here's the top educational platforms and that's it.
Well, at first, yeah. But of course, let's be clear here, okay? I don't want anybody taking my words out of context. The context I'm trying to provide is that we are not being paid a lot of money. We don't have a huge funding pool. We do have human resources, and I don't mind helping you guys. But I want to start with something that is reasonable that we can bite off. And then from there, we can start looking at these other things. Right now, I'm not saying that your ideas aren't great. I'm saying that there are potentially other ideas that I don't want to say, right now you're saying I'm excited and I think we should make vanilla ice cream into cherries. We should put cherries in there. We should put a lot of cherries because cherries on top are amazing. And I would agree. Somebody might disagree, right? So I want to get those people
but
first.
I just haven't got a clear picture of what that is. Like, what would the site look like exactly?
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said earlier, if you listened to me,
what is your vanilla?
I said we would have a site. Hold on. I'm gonna answer your question, Steve. I said we would have a site where people can go and submit their website and their platform or their initiative with their learning resource, right? Then once we've got that, we have a list where we can contact them and say, let's come together for a group. Steve has some ideas. Fuzzy has some ideas. Vincent has some ideas. Sharif, all of these people have ideas and they're part of it already. Here's the first discussion we had. Get caught up and let's discuss where we want to go with this, because right now we're only talking about Carmel and a couple other projects, but we haven't even acknowledged the other ones yet, right? Because we don't know all of them. I'm not blaming that. I'm just saying that that's the next step, right? To get on board. Otherwise, we're kind of cutting them off.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So we really need to list all the current platforms, and I think like the goal of our platform is to break the silos in the educational side. So I think we need to have everyone that's doing educational platforms and educational content. We need to add an incentive for them to post all their content and manage it like Steve did. Steve said on our website, on our platform. So we need to be like the one-stop shop for everything, like educational and everything that other BPs and other projects do. They are rated and compared with each other. So I think that's the goal. Like, it's to break the silos and be the one-stop shop and do it in a way that we don't have a lot of management to do, like a lot of how do you say that? Anyways, what Steve said earlier, like it needs to be simple. So people need to be managing their own content and keeping up to date. So yeah,
the EOS tutorials site predates almost everything else out there. We were the second next to Carmel to launch.
Yeah. Well, let's add it to the list.
Initiative slowed down through the mainnet, so we haven't put out much. We've got about 80 token holder FAQs that we're going to launch over the next like month or so. You know what I mean? That we've already accumulated, and that's a good start. But it's not what I think is most needed in relation to what Vincent just said. Let's be real, like deep dive, easy to understand tutorials on development, on actually how to connect to an endpoint, how to use EOS.js and with different platforms, front-end frameworks, how to set up basically all the props and all the stuff to get these dApps working. And that's Carmel addresses that in large part. I think they'll give a good incentive model to bring on a lot of the technical people. The gaps that I think we could fill as a community are just deeper token holder education that we're all contributing to right now, and that's a little easier to do. So if you know any developers that want to come write a bunch of stuff and just submit in every direction to developer content, that would probably be a slick thing for developers to do if we have the right incentive model. Is if they knew that they could get cross-chain tokens from 3 or 4 different platforms, they could go submit on each one and not put all their eggs in one basket. So that helps them diversify their IP, as well. But I don't know. I feel like the really technical documentation people want to keep. They want to like keep a hold of that because they put a lot into it. So, and a good incentive model, we do need to think about it. Y'all
a good incentive model, yeah. It has to give the credit to them. That's what's blown my mind in cryptocurrency is that like everywhere else I've learned where I've written papers in the past, I credit people. And I had no qualms crediting them because by God, I stood on their frigging shoulders to learn about things. And it was a good thing for me to say, Vygotsky, like I learned from people about that were really like nerds thinking about this all the time, and to put them in a document and say that. And I think that that's something, if we can get back to that in some way, shape, or form, like, hey, I got this idea from this person, but I twisted it. I added this to it. And it's like, it shows people that we can still be brilliant in our own in our own way and still give credit. If there's a way of accomplishing that in this, I would be thrilled. I would be thrilled.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it goes back to giving credit. I think that's what most people just want. It's like, if I came up with this idea, please give me credit for it. You know, like, anyway. So are we safe to say a website, like, and whoever wants to help me with this, all I need is just a website where we can show it and say, go here, submit the stuff that, like, not submit the stuff you've done, but your website or what you're doing, your project, so we know about you. Because let's face it, there are a lot of people who are educators who might not even have a website, but they've got a project because they can't, you know. So if we can do that, and then maybe we can start and we can initiate like a Zerg campaign where we go around and everybody posts the site and says, hey, go and post there what your project is, like EOS tutorials, and we add those, you know, Carmel and all of them just to a one site, and then we say, hey, you know, from here we have at least a basic foundation that we know exists. We can go wild with the cherries and the other stuff to go in the ice cream. But I would just like to get
has those strengths, though. I mean, and that's kind of what Vincent was saying. Is already, like, EOS Docs is a good mix. You know, it's got some onboarding and token holder stuff, and it's also got some technical documentation. You know, EOS Bootcamp from Sharif and them from Dublin is another great resource, and they were more technical at first, but now they've got a good mix as well. We're probably going to be heavy on token holder education at first and have a little bit of technical documentation we really can't give away because it will be a shared resource with our initiative with EOS Rise. So that's our, not that we wouldn't submit technical documentation, we probably wouldn't have a lot. Most of our contribution would be like well documented, like easy to read, you know, good images, good SVGs and explainers for just token holder onboarding. You know what I mean? So that incentive model would be a motivator, because I'd be like, oh, well, there's a light at this end of this tunnel. I create all this stuff. I share it on this platform. Not only do I onboard people through my channel, but I can get a dividend, you know, and share in some of the resources, you know, from this other channel through a cross-chain token, whatever incentive, or at least drive people back to some of my more commercial, you know, some of the more commercial stuff. So I suspect over time, the granddaddy is always going to be Carmel, you know, because there's a flat incentive and it'll be a wider distribution of knowledge. You know what I mean? So you'll I think we'll see a lot of stuff originate there. I'm almost wanting to ask Carmel if they can create a settlement token or some mechanism for this, where it's just in a little embeddable piece of JavaScript and you can track the interaction, you know what I mean? Or something.
Well, it would be great to have something like that.
Right.
And they do have a lot of people who are passionate about the project. I don't know how, I mean, I know they're busy.
Yeah, I don't see that being a hub. Like, they're already doing that. So why not, like, work with them to
of course,
a cross-chain token that embeds into this, like, you know, WordPress site or some type of educational portal that we create, and that anyone can embed that, you know. But maybe we have, just for this initiative, there's a time frame where it's exclusive to this platform, and that helps kind of monetize this core group, you know, for that time. It would have some exclusivity maybe in the short term.
This is my take on it. You guys do it.
How do you drive people to you guys? What's the benefit also if they can get it anywhere else? You know, I would say ease of use and good usability, and that monetization layer would bring a lot of people together real quick. Like, how do we get everybody on board? Also kind of give Carmel a, you know, as time goes on over the next 2 years, a lot of people might be on Carmel anyways, and this initiative may die out, but it served a great interim as a hub to bring those efforts together in the communication and you know, educators to be able to focus their efforts in these early days. That is a benefit. Like, that is a good outcome of this. I just keep saying we have to think about the incentive. Like, whatever you guys can come up with at Carmel, y'all are sharp guys. We want to or make sure you guys have, you know, a part in that, and they're capable engineers who could come up with something something to have a central point where it's like, hey, it's not just Carmel. We created a token for this initiative. You know what I mean? And everyone can share in this. And we know, you know, we're all out to push our own platforms. But for now, for this little time period, we can come together and we have an incentive. You know, and that's all I'm trying to point out. We have to figure that out. My suggestion is keep Carmel in the mix on that because they have the resources.
Yeah, I think everything we do, we need to think about how can we make this win-win for everyone. So how can we make this platform and that it's a benefit to Carmel? How can we make this and it's a benefit to, let's say, EOS Dublin with EOS Bootcamp? Like, how can we make this work for everyone?
First step is bringing them on board.
Yes, for sure. If we can, like,
but why would they come on board if we didn't have our shit together in a clear, like, set of goals? Like, if you said to them, oh, you can keep up to 30% of your content, we do have a cap, or you can submit up to 10. We don't care. We just ask that.
They would come to us because, Steve, I'm going to interrupt you. The reason why they would come to us is because we asked them to have a say, and we at least give them a say. And if they didn't want to say, then that's fine. They'll tell us, and then we'll come to them later after we've included the people who haven't been included. That's the only thing.
That doesn't, like,
so please don't take it wrong. I just want
this is just something that's rampant in crypto. People want people to do free work. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's rampant. So many people during this time period are extra sensitive to using, you know, creatives and developers for the you know, pie in the sky community dream that never really happens. And if we're deliberate and we're professional and we say, no, here's a clear monetization strategy. Here's how we're going to actually share and have some incentive in this initiative. Here's like a maintenance layer. So we know, like I suggested with like the JSON objects, or having a standard, at least a technical standard to people creating documentation, so that this initiative could live on. You know what I mean?
So what do we lose? What do we lose by not doing? What do we lose by not coming up with something and telling them this is our idea, you want to be part of it or not?
Well, nothing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying
that's what it sounds like.
No. That's generally, you get people more engaged. Don't
tell me how it's not like that, though.
You get people more. You get smart people more engaged when you have that stuff laid out. And that's just how developers are. You're not a developer, so you can't relate to that. But if you talk
no. Please, you don't have to speak for me, Steve. Okay, please, just let's be fair.
Please, in reality, talk to a developer and tell them this. Hey, work for some pie in the sky reason because community. Some people will. You'll probably get everybody if you have like a clear.
Why are you doing this, man?
What? Don't get mad.
I'm not advocating that. You're saying these things, and then you're saying I'm not a developer, so I don't understand. What I'm simply saying is, let's not take this personally. Let's not take it into that realm. That doesn't keep us productive. It doesn't keep us productive.
You're taking this in a different direction.
Oh, no. What I'm telling you is, I've already said what I think that would be good, which would be for us to bring those people on board, to let them know, hey, let's go and bring you on board for a discussion. We have some ideas. Then from there, we can establish that point. What you seem like you're wanting to do right now is just jump forward to the next step right now.
No, not at all. Not at all. I was just trying to point out that it would be good to have some baseline conversation about what that incentive is and a strategy.
Yeah, of course, which is exactly what I'm advocating.
That's all.
But how do we have that conversation, Steve? If we don't bring them in,
I'll relate it to like when I try to bring.
Steve, please answer the question. How do we do that if we don't bring them in? If we don't approach them and ask them to sign up and get to be part of our list so we can bring them on? How do we have that conversation?
Well, you could.
I just want answers to that question because we can go into circles. Hold on, we can lose ourselves in this discussion.
I'm trying to answer you. Just let me answer you real quick, Justin.
Okay.
Basically, I'm just pointing. This is just a general precept of most developers that if you came at them without those things, you might not get as much commitment from like technical content. So it might be a good idea to just have a baseline of, hey, these are the things we discussed for monetization. You want to be a part of that rather than, hey, we're starting this community initiative. Like you might get more commitment of technical people. And I think anyone who's here who's technical would agree that generally like they'll be more receptive if you have a little bit of that fleshed out versus like, we don't really know what we're going to do yet. We're just kind of, these are the ideas on the table versus this is what we're starting to talk about. How do you want to, what do you think about that part of the conversation? And it seems a little more fleshed out. That's just a perception.
Would you not agree that a website where they can post their stuff so we can get to that point?
You're wanting to do that first. You're wanting to get that done. Okay.
I think
I said that many times, Steve.
When we look at
I mean, we're just talking about steps and order of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just asking that you listen instead of saying that I'm saying other things, man.
I'm not saying nothing,
No, it's not fair to me.
Don't get emo on me. We do this every time we fight like others.
No, I'm not getting emo. I'm trying to teach you how to respect people.
Okay, Fuzzy.
Like, it's really simple, man. Like, it's not a big deal.
Here's my
I'm disrespecting you. I'm just pointing out realities.
I don't think we need to like create a website right now. I think what we need to do is like do what All Things EOS is doing. If you go at the bottom of their page, they say, "Oh, you have a link. You have a suggestions. Come to our Telegram group and mention it." So I think right now what we need to do is just send people that have educational platforms, educational content to our Telegram channel, and then we can discuss with them, have them on board of our next meeting. Discuss with them. I think right now what we need to do is make a big list of all the current educational platforms, and then see who wants in this list, who wants to collaborate, and how can we merge stuff. So if we say, oh well, EOS Bootcamp is the best platform that has the most content right now, and then if we have a good idea of what we want to build in the end, we could say, oh, EOS Dublin, would you want to partner with us and willing to merge your project with the ones we want to do right now? Because if we just start from scratch, we have to do all the work that Bootcamp did from scratch. And if we can go and see All Things EOS and say, oh, we like the page that you did and like the dashboard, maybe we can add that dashboard to Bootcamp. And then we go see other projects like that and just try to merge them into one big platform. And then once that big platform is done, well, what's missing? What can we add to that? Because we don't want to just create our own platform and then Bootcamp dies and All Things EOS dies, because like we want people that are working on Bootcamp, people that are working on EOS Docs, people that are working on All Things EOS to work on the same platform. If we just like add them to ours and they keep theirs, they're going to put time and effort in their platform also. If we can merge resources, I think that's the goal. So it's really to break the silos and like work on one big thing. And there's going to be controversy with that. So some people will say, oh, well, we already put so much effort. Like we need to discuss with them and see how can we make this possible? And if not, well, we're just going to do this on our own. But I'm sure a lot of BPs are going to be willing to merge their efforts with others as long as they're recognized for their efforts. So yeah, that's
I think Bootcamp had like logos, individual logos on each BP's content. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, me too. I think that was a good incentive for VPs to post there. So I think what we need to do is like discuss and brainstorm on what exactly do we want to build as a platform. What does it need? So we need courses, we need quiz, we need a page like a dashboard. What else do we need? And then what do we want it to look like?
Vincent, do you envision this, Sharif and Vincent, because y'all are really early on this initiative, do you guys envision this as like a full-fledged educational platform eventually on par with Carmel, or are you going more towards something more simplified?
What I see right now is that like what EOS Bootcamp did is really great. What All Things EOS did is really great. When we think about like all the technical courses that Carmel is doing, I don't think we can compete with that. I think right now we just need to post links of Carmel on the website, post links of all the other technical things on that platform, and then rate them.
So more like a database of rated resources.
Yes, just be the one-stop shop for people that go and see, okay, what's available to me, what courses are available to me, where can I take them. So that's for all the technical stuff. If there are courses, like right now, I think there are already courses that are like more on the tech side, that I think it's EOS New York that merged them from EOS Docs. Like we can put them on there, but all the ones that we can't, like Caramel, we still need to link them, because we need to show the community everything that's available. So everything that Caramel does, everything that everyone does, and then rate them. Because right now that's the problem. Everyone is working in silos, so we see, oh, they do great work, but maybe someone else is doing something better, and that person is not able to go and see that information. They don't know where it is. That's the problem right now. People don't know where to search, where to look. Maybe we have something, but we don't know which one is the best.
More of a searchable database of resources that are just rated.
Yes. Yep. The goal, I think, is to make one big database for everything that's already made, and then make it so that people can also add content to that database.
And that could be a second step, right? Because once you have that, this is really going back, Steve, to what you were saying, which is there are certain teams and each of them have their own strengths. And it's like, man, when you have limited resources, you got to have those resources come together to some degree. And when your resources, one of them are, your skill set, what your skill set is, right? Like, wouldn't it be nice if you knew that this team had this skill set and they could help you on this front and don't have to worry about doing it?
Like the people, I could even see the person who submitted the content would have a profile, and that they might get rewarded for the amount of submissions into the database that were registered. So there would be an actual approval layer. So if it had checked out to be a good resource, you know what I mean? And that may be an angle for the incentives. I don't know. I'm just wondering, if it's a database, then that doesn't really require that people put their full long form content on your site. There are search engine concerns when people create this content, because they're targeting like certain keywords, for that particular piece of content. So if your content outranks them, that can traditionally be contentious. And the only way that would usually happen is if you dumped the entire piece of content into your site without a canonical URL, without a way to denote in the DOM, that, hey, this content originated here. You could do that. You could have content in multiple places, but it's just important that you use that directive. I keep pointing out, I don't know how that's going to work. That's the only thing that I could see people being like sharing all their content, and they publish the whole thing on your platform, and then you outrank them for that content over time because you have more depth of content, and then they're like at the bottom of the page for the piece of content they created. And that's there's a way to mitigate that, and that's all I'm trying to point out.
Well, my take on it is the best people for you to say that to, a lot of them are here. So let's get a tool to get them, and then you can say all this stuff to all of them. And we can
scrapers. There are scrapers available that could essentially, if someone gave us the go ahead, they wouldn't even have to submit the content. We could essentially go scrape it down, or use an RSS feed if it's on WordPress, like Sharif and
that would be
Dublin's. You could dump that straight into the system. So there's.
Do you think that might piss them off, or do you think?
No, I mean, if they gave you permission, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say. I was just saying it would make porting over content much easier.
Well, if that would work, then I'm all for it, because I think Vincent, I agree with where Vincent's going. Like, I think we get the list and all that stuff, and then from there, everything will kind of go on its own a lot more. He
had mentioned the forums to actually submit original content to the site, and I would see,
that could
talk about ways to scale.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways of the things that you're talking about. I honestly think that once we get all the people together who are real passionate about this, they're gonna like talking to you about this stuff.
Who here is a developer? Does anyone here code?
No.
No. I've got coders.
Not that I'm some grand developer. I'm mainly front end. I was just asking if anybody else here coded.
Well, that's part of this entire group, right?
That's okay. Well, that gives me context, because y'all are starting from a simpler place of what you can execute as a group. Is Carmel's on the call? right?
Yeah.
Andre?
Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Are you a developer?
Nope.
But he works with developers. He's a very, very schooled gentleman.
Oh, absolutely. I was just asking. Not that means anything. It just gives me context that, okay, the core group here is mostly like non-technical. They don't code much themselves, but maybe they work with code. That's a good thing to know, Andrew.
Yeah.
Just asking. I didn't know. I'm probably the only person here that really designs or codes, so my thinking is probably a little bit different.
Well,
like, you know what I mean? Like, that's really all that it is.
And there's no
developers.
Like, that's what we need.
Yeah. Where are the other developers? Like, where's the back end guys? How can we get some of those guys on board?
I think that we have to start reaching out to the people who are doing those projects, to be honest. Because
is that an outcome of this meeting, that we need an outreach list? Is that like a deliverable?
That's what I'm thinking is the most simple one, and then we can go from there. Like, really, the only thing that I really want to make sure of is that, like, if you weren't here today, Steve, I would have done the same thing and hoping that the group would find you and EOS tutorials.
I'm just nudging you guys into some processes and like maybe some directions that we would consider that would make everybody happy, but I don't know. I wish there was a few more I wish there was a few more technical people to jump in and tell, like, give different perspectives on what I'm saying and maybe even make it better. I'm not the end all. I was just suggesting, like, hey, here's a few ideas. I don't know. It sounds like y'all want to start a lot leaner. Just a directory base, pretty straightforward, ranked and rated. No incentive model at first, just really a place to submit resources that are searchable. That's like your MVP.
Yeah, because here's the problem is, like, when you want to tell somebody about EOS, you can't really, like, send them 8 links when you can just send them one site and then they can go look at all of it.
I have something to say about that. So, like, a little background on myself. I'm fairly very, very new to EOS and crypto in general. When I started out with EOS Cafe and I was looking for any type of information on EOS, I literally had to have like 20 tabs open and like everything, because there is no one place to go and get information or any kind of content, like anything basic. Like, you literally, I think the best thing I found was maybe like a Reddit forum where they had like a little bit of summary about EOS and little bits and information. And then I had to go through the forums, like searching for keywords. If I was ever curious about anything, I found that the best way to find any answers was through Telegram, which I really don't think is an easy like access for an average person. Which is why I'm really interested in this whole educational platform, even though I don't have any developer background.
That's okay. You can write.
I was actually hoping to get involved with the educational process by making like short little YouTube clips about, like, I don't know, like a 60-second info on blockchain, 60-second info on what is EOS, because there is a ton of content out there, but I found that everything out there was like a YouTube video that's like 20 minutes long. Like, I can't send that to my friends and say, hey, this is EOS, like, check this out. Nobody is ever going to watch that entire 20-minute video. So I'm not going to be getting involved in any of the developing side, obviously, but I would be very interested in creating some very, very basic educational content for an average user. I think it's very, very easy for anyone that's involved in EOS to get caught up in a lot of jargon and in the technical side of things. But I don't think that makes the barrier to entry is just so high for that. And that is just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. I still don't have the question, the answer for the question, what are we trying to solve right now? Is it ramping up general people to EOS blockchain? Is merging projects to EOS? Is it to create tutorials about EOS? Is it to create tutorials about development? It's right now. I think that's the main questions. Yeah, but we can't solve all of them at once.
Well, right now there's already a lot of platforms or information that offer answers to all the things that you said. Basically, what you said is that there are different clienteles, different needs. So let's say I'm a developer, I need them for something specific. So we just want to have one general educational platform that will give information to all these clienteles on the EOS.
Okay.
I wonder if it would be somewhat feasible to have like a centralized website where we have all the resources and then kind of gear it towards different audiences, like you said, like an average user, token holders, and then people who actually want to get involved in developing on EOS. Because I think those three are three different levels, but I think that the educational content does need to be there. And like I mentioned, everything's just so spread out right now that it's really hard for anyone to get involved. So originally when I got in, when I was reading about EOS education, I imagined something like all things EOS. And then EOS Bootcamp came up, and I think that's a great place for anyone who wants to learn in detail about EOS. So I'm just wondering if we can somehow get all these resources in one place. But as Fuzzy mentioned, I think we should stick to being a little bit more leaner. I don't think everyone has the time to invest 40 hours a week into this. That's just my point of view. I don't know what everyone else has envisioned for this.
Okay, so I think right now what we can do is just go through the list of platforms that we all know. So do you see my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, so we got EOS Docs, EOS Bootcamp, all things EOS, the Caramel Project, EOS Nairobi. You said they had some educational stuff, EOS tutorials. What else do you guys know that we can add to the list?
I guess we could add us. To be honest with you, I think we've got EOS Dublin that does some stuff too.
Yeah, that's done Bootcamp. That's the Bootcamp.
Yeah, that's okay.
I know that EOS Wire, before they shut the website down, had similar information with all things EOS. Katie actually gave me access to the information on EOS Wire, if there's anything we can take from that to put on the new content platform.
Yeah, we should talk to Katie too, because she brings valuable thought. She's not a dummy.
I really liked EOS Wire, and I was wanting to build some bootcamp stuff from EOS Wire, because just some of the things were authoritative. Like she had a page of every single voting platform, and yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, that was kind of what I used at the beginning to learn about all the resources that were out there. So I found it really useful, and I actually reached out to her and I was like, what happened to your website? Because it's closed.
I did that too.
And she said she was just having a hard time maintaining it. So
yeah.
So you said EOS Wire, and who was behind that project?
It was Katie Roman.
Oh yeah, okay, Katie Roman. Okay, and who would like to contact her if we want to collaborate or whatever? Ask her if she wants to merge efforts or whatever. Does anyone have a good
I can reach out to her. I've already kind of been in talks with her about using the information from EOS Wire. So
okay. So your name is Maria, like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So EOS tutorials. That's you, Steve?
Yes.
Is it
EOS tutorials? That is actually a joint effort between EOS Tribe and EOS Detroit are the only people who have that. It was EOS Austin as well, but they fell out. Someone gave their group away.
Okay.
Why or what happened? It just changed hands, and the guy we were dealing with kind of faded out. He's not active anymore.
Okay.
So, another reason that it started to fall off. He was supposed to be the person guiding it, and us in Detroit have kind of picked it back up and said, okay, well, we have some content to put here, and that was something we're looking at doing in the next. We haven't even had our first meetings about it. It's just the conversations between me and Rodrigo up to this point, and they started showing interest in this. So obviously, I'm like, well, how can we take the content that we're doing for the token holder stuff and maybe port it over to this initiative? You know what I mean? Even if I can't give away all the OCI's content, or maybe just some of OCI's content. And we have some too. We have about 5 or 6 technical tutorials that Eugene and myself have done. But, you know, there's, I think, how many does EOS Bootcamp have now? Like 20 plus or more pretty solid long form courses.
We're close to 30, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And they're all over the place. They have some technical, they have token holder, they have a good mix of stuff. So ours is probably going to be mainly token holder, updated token holder FAQs. Like 70% of what we have. So something we could add to the mix. We'll already be working on it, but that's where we're at. So.
Cool.
Okay. And for the Caramel project, who do we contact? Is it you, Andre?
Yeah, can contact me.
Okay. And for EOS Nairobi, does anyone have contacts there?
She is in our group. Her name is Rosalind. And I've been emailing her, and I made her an instructor on EOS Bootcamp and created like a draft course for them. But I don't know, I mean, that's kind of like a long form project because I don't know, somebody in this group might know more than me, but they won a big grant for education. And so they set up a professional video studio, which is something that I think, there's a million tutorials, but like having professionally produced videos is something that I really have my eye on as a step forward.
Okay, so the name of the person again is?
Rosalind, ROSELYLYNE. And she's actually in the education group, even though she's not very active.
Okay, and can I put your name as to you're the contact I can like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isaac, all right. Okay, so that's okay. And all things EOS, that's EOS Arabia. Do you guys remember the name of the person behind that project?
Yasser is someone at EOS Arabia, and he sent me how to set up scatter course in Arabic. So I have an Arabic page on Bootcamp. His name is Yasser Taba.
Yasser Taba. Okay. And do you want me to follow up, or do you want to do it? It's up to you, Isaac.
I can talk to him because I've been talking with him in constructing his Arabic course.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
But yeah, I love that. I think that's a beautiful page too. I just like the animation and how it looks. EOS Docs is Kevin Rose, obviously. And then by the way, he gave me a large part of that to adapt into his technical course on Bootcamp. So if you go to like the EOS New York course in the technical tab, that comes directly from EOS Docs. But that of course goes back to, Steve's issue of having the site of origin and stuff like that, which I don't understand that well because I just am a content person.
Basically, like if you get into like technical side of like content, like technical writers and stuff, they often have deeper knowledge about like the DOM and the actual browser and the DOM elements that like help the site rank, and the structure of content, the schema, and even where it might be, I'm sure you're familiar with like enterprise people who do that. It's really simple. It's just, if you went and learned a little bit of technical SEO, there's just these directives that tell the content, the search engines like site of origin and stuff. And that's what canonical URL is. Like if you go search that, and just read for 5 minutes, it would give you a pretty good overview of like, oh, okay, it's not like that big of a deal at all. It's just a tag. It's just a tag and a meta tag. Yeah, and the head element of a site. So it's like not a, you know, when you really dig into technical writing, it's like, and you see that it's just learning a few basic things and just research. It's not as hairy as you probably think. You know, we do need to think about that kind of stuff, though. I think if we have your site ranking over other people's content over time, there would be less incentive for them to participate.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
One that ranks, you know, and maybe some pages you rank, and I could certainly, like Fuzzy said, see a benefit to someone who maybe can't do all the SEO. They just have like a Medium post and it doesn't rank very well for their term. And then they put it on your site and suddenly it's like number 2. You know what I mean? Like that would be a benefit to them because they're like, oh, my content's ranking. And then they're going to my page, you know, and learning more about my knowledge or learning more about me. That would be a benefit of the platform for someone who maybe couldn't get their content to rank.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I've liked so far about Bootcamp is making those title pages of the course with all the, you know, that all of it links back to the block producer and links back to their Medium and Twitter and stuff like that. So yeah, I think something like that going forward. But EOS Docs, if you were to look through EOS Docs and then look through the EOS New York Tech course, you'll find most of EOS Docs is in that one course.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a pretty big project that Kevin and I did together.
Cool. It's a lot of content.
Yeah.
So basically, EOS Bootcamp has EOS Docs within it.
Yeah, Kevin was one of the first people that reached out, and boy, the writing was just authoritative, and the code was immaculate, and there's notation on it. There's like, you know, a note, an alert, a warning, and so he gave me all of that and all of the CSS. So we sort of like duplicated it in that one course.
Nice. It looked really good. Are you using a like a WordPress e-learning template for y'all's site now?
Yeah, it's called a learning management system, and I used to work at a learning management company, and I was also in this group called Smart History, which made some of the first e-learning platforms for art history. And that was purchased by Khan Academy. And so then over the course of this experience, like we use WordPress all the time. And I did this survey of every learning management system available in WordPress. And that was kind of the one that I liked the most. It's called Lifter LMS.
Cool. That is awesome. So this is what you do.
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was. Now I
this do. This is your jam. You're like caught in a loop. You're like, wait, what do I do now? E-learning. I got to do a learning management system. Just as soon as
I had some of the first e-learning courses in 2007 on YouTube before it was purchased by Google.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So I guess you guys are all stars. My theory is that Sharif, you're an all-star. Andre, you're an all-star. Vincent, you're an all-star. All the people who are joining up, you guys from Steve who did the tutorials, you're an all-star. Like the people who are already the ones who are out there doing it, we want them to be able to work together if at all possible. And then I can maximize the resources I have to help you guys get something even small started, and then you can turn it into something friggin' huge. I don't mind that. Trust me, I don't mind that. I just want to make sure that all of you guys are brought together so you out on one another's information. That's all.
I like the simple idea Vincent's saying is just an MVP is just create a simple searchable database of everything, tag it up, have a little like schema markup, you know, if you're familiar with schema.org, it allows a directive for you to put like a rating on a particular piece of content. People can rate it, and then that will even show up in the SERP, you know, in the search engine results page, a little star, you know, next to the rating. So people can maybe, if you have a lower ranking for that content, but you might have some notes or something that's unique, you can still.
Hey, man, you just taught me how to give you my private keys for this airdrop and stole all my. Something like that.
Well, that's the other thing. That's a good point. What is I assume, Sharif, you do have some standards to submissions. You're going to have some standards. So people are trying to put maybe fake. He's putting out something there, what if you have like a tutorial that gives someone bad information that might be malicious?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm Isaac, by the way. I'm just using Sharif's account because he has a pro account. It's okay. It's an honor to be called Sharif.
You guys look
and then
I thought he was just another Sharif at first. I didn't realize it was actually Sharif.
No. I work for EOS Dublin. And then the other thing is of course there's standards. I mean, what we're doing now for bootcamp is we just curate everything. Like we just reach out to people and ask for courses. And I think it's really important. I mean, I want to have, something like what you guys are talking about, like open submission, and you just have your own courses and the market controls it. But there's some people, like I'm getting a course of Moti Tabulo on governance, and I would never be able to get that course without, reaching out and asking for it. And sort of like making those personal connections with people. So I think there's going to be, I love what you're saying, Steve, though, about like incentivizing it from the beginning and making it non-competitive.
Right. Well, at least talking about it, at least being open about it up front for the people. I'm not talking about let's go into step 1, 2, and 3 of that. We have to, like you guys said, solidify who are the contributors, like the alpha steps, the MVP. But I mean, I'm just trying to say, if we have that as part of the core conversation, say we are thinking very seriously about an incentive model. Carmel is possibly looking at creating a cross-chain token that will feed into their system. So this entire effort has a monetization level. And we're taking steps on the technical SEO side to give canonical URLs to the originating content, or even partial pieces of the content to redirect them however they want to commercialize that, or as they see fit. But I do, on the other side of that, think you need to think, what's your name? Not Sharif. I apologize.
Isaac.
What the what those standards are. Like what is the submission standard? I think that's okay, and that would probably cause the group less confusion. Because what if we get another 10 people that come on board and then it's pandemonium? We're all working in different directions. Like, we need to think about a construct to funnel people into the most effective things that they can do.
I would say the one main thing that we want to do is make sure that we bring to that discussion, right? And so let's get them on for that discussion. You take that floor at that point and we can discuss it, and then they can give their input on, I like using the canonical HTML. I like using that, but have you thought about this?
No, that's kind of an absolute. Like, you have to have a canonical URL directive. Like, you have to, or you don't. If you don't, then that piece of content is going to outrank. I mean, that is an empirical thing.
No, I'm not saying like, I'm just using that as an example. So please don't take it as like the point. Like, the point that I'm saying is, like, let's get them together and then we discuss that, because I'm pretty sure that if we say, hey, the goal is to create an ecosystem where all of us benefit, and we would like to bring your brains into that problem and help us solve it. Maybe I'm too, that's my take on it. And then we go to step 3, 4, 5.
See if there's a possible collaboration. Our EOS, and what do we need to do for the community? What is the need for the community and for every different clients, every different person? So beginner, intermediate, and also like more advanced people. And also we need to think about like the token economic models. I think concerning the token economic model, we can do like one meeting just on the tokenization of the platform, because there's a lot to say, and some people aren't really interested or don't want to participate on that side. So I don't want to take everyone's time. So I think we could do a specific meeting on that. And also, let's look at the different platforms that are live right now, and let's think about what do we like about those platforms, what don't we don't like, and what enhancement could we add to these platforms or to our platform so that it is the best one. So also I was thinking, should we do like a community poll and ask the community some questions so we can make a better platform, or we do that after the next meeting once we talk about all the ideas and stuff like that? Yeah, so that's pretty much all the actionable items. It's more like get familiar with the platforms, contact the people, and that's pretty much it. Do you guys have anything to add to the actionable items?
I just want to make a note that Katie Roman has disbanded EOS Wire because of conflict of interest of her working with a block producer now with EOS Asia.
Okay.
Which I think is very amicable of her. She stepped away from that just to not have any conflicts. So I think now she's with EOS Asia.
Yeah.
But are you saying take the content that they've already done?
Yeah, so she's agreed to share the content that was on EOS Wire previously.
Cool.
Given me access to it, so
that is nice.
Yes.
Cool.
Very nice of her.
Yeah, same thing with like EOS docs. I think Kevin doesn't mind, and he mentioned it in the Telegram group. And on the tab in the EOS docs, there's different tabs there. So if we look like resources and stuff like that, that's all EOS New York that compiled that information. But understanding EOS, that was a database that I created, so we can take everything that's on there. So it's all the community projects, a little bit the same as all things EOS. But what I did is also add all the content that has been produced concerning EOS. So all the videos, all the YouTube videos. So they're all compiled here, but they stop till June. But I'm working on like a Excel spreadsheet to add all this information. So it's like just a database. So EOS docs, I liked it, but it was just links. So what I'm doing is I'm putting like a date, what is it, an article, a video, what's the title, where is it, who's on this, who are we mentioning in this post, and then what is it, like is it the block producer list, whatever, and then the link, and then I add keywords so we can search with keywords and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to build that big database so we can merge it. So I would like to like merge this database on the platform. So we would have one page is the database, one page is the all things EOS, another one. So it's just one place where we can see all the information. Like right now, there is a platform that just came out. I think it's EOS Blocksmith. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that. That's it. Dashboard.eosblocksmith.io. So like this, they have like a news feed. I think we need to do the same thing with the database, but add keywords, searchable keywords, so we can see what's the EOS news, but we can see the news only related to price, only related to governance, only related to other things, and like add filters from that date to this date. So we can like go in the past and see what has been done. So just like do a big database with all the information. Anyways, so that's what I was thinking. So do you guys have anything else to add to the actionable items?
Well, no, that looks good to me, but I would just say, I know that since we've been working on Bootcamp from the beginning, we've been thinking about it being a central place where all block producers can come and contribute. So, I mean, it's just a WordPress install with that LMS. So we can open it up. I can make you guys administrators, and we can build separate pages on it and import pages, have database lists and dashboards and stuff like that. So I know that we at EOS Dublin want to welcome all the block producers, and we want a central thing because it's so important. So if that's what you decide on, I mean, I can just open it up and add new administrators.
So, Isaac, talk with your team, see what we can do. Could we start from that platform and then build on? And what can we change on that platform? Like there is all the EOS Dublin colors. Do you want to keep all the branding? So just talk with the team, see what can be done, and everyone else do the same thing on your side, and then we can discuss during our next meeting. I think right now we could do like weekly meetings, but when we get in the development side of things, it's like more actionable items. I think we can do it like bi-week, every 2 weeks or every month, like Steve said. But right now, I think there's a lot of things to discuss, so I think we need to keep this weekly.
Okay.
All right.
Real quick, do you mind if I just post a link in here real quick for everybody before
we
end this? I just want to make sure that you guys have this because I posted it a while ago in the actual Telegram. But as we know, Telegram is a place where information goes to get lost in a black hole. So rather than do that, I would like to just remind everybody that we do have this spreadsheet.
Yes.
It was already being worked on. So if you want to have it where people just add to that, that's fine too.
Yes, it's in our meeting agenda.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure if you guys want to, you can pass that around though, people to fill out. The reason I was thinking a website might be better was because if Steve's right, man, like when it comes to like making it sexy for a user, like if we can show somebody something where like, hey, I'm important.
I can do the UI. It's just that Andre.
Well, I don't need you to always do things though, because I know you're always busy too, man. Like I'm not trying to.
Well, hold on a minute. If I can provide a sketch comp for Andre's team, and then they code it, you know what I mean? Because he does have access to developers like EOS Nation, EOS Tribe. We've got so many projects we're supporting between Dennis, me, Eugene, and some of their technical guys, Matthew. We do have to watch what we support, but like
I know
this is an area where Carmel can smash it because they could throw, you've got the UI, and then they have the whole thing coded and set up in like a week. And they'll chomp through like a React UI like nothing and laugh. And then maybe like Dennis can come in and do some of the data stuff, for like a few days. And then I can come in and help clean up the CSS or something, but it's not like a huge overbearing thing. It was just like, here's a comp. That saves them time because they've already told me they need help with UI because they have a shortage of UI. They have tons of backend engineers at Carmel. From what they've told me, they don't have like dozens of UI people just laying around. That is a shortage in the network right now. So I don't mind if it pushes it forward, but you guys have to come up internally with like a wireframe. Maybe Isaac and Vincent and Sawandio and Andre can all join forces on that and say, well, here's kind of a general UI of what we would think it should be. Just a quick like wireframe, no design or anything, just like where the block should be.
Yeah.
Right. And then based on the group conversation of what the requirements are, then I give UI, comp, and then I give that UI comp to Andre and his team and they code it. They'll code it and host it and do it however they want to do it. But that would be my recommendation.
Sounds fair to me. You're never going to get me saying no to synergy, buddy.
So then their team is like, wait, we got to fucking design and code it and host it. That's a lot for Andre's team too. If we spread that out a little bit with everybody, it might be a little lighter. You know what I mean? For everyone.
Exactly. Man, thank you, Vincent, for putting this together, buddy. Seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you to all of you crazy nerds who actually lasted this long. I don't know why the hell you're that crazy, but I'm glad you are.
We have Phil Mesnier, the legendary Phil Mesnier, in this meeting.
Mesnier, right?
Even set Mesnier.
I'll tell you, buddy.
Said it in chat, but no one's even acknowledged him. Hello, Phil. How are you?
That's because he's like a ninja right now, just sneaking around in the bushes, listening.
No, I'm just listening.
How's it going, Phil?
Not bad. I'm sorry I'm late. I totally forgot about the meeting and then saw a note that it was starting and went to YouTube and watched for a while thinking I was watching a recording and I realized it was live. So yeah, I guess I'm the token software engineer here.
I'm no longer the only programmer. We have like this senior badass ninja, like wizard of C++.
Oh, shucks.
Take it when you got it, right? You know?
I'm telling you, man, people do not chill Phil's skills as much. When you go really look in those repos, I'm telling you, go look in the repos, man. It says it all. Like he deserves to be more of a rock star. People put all this focus on Dan. Well, there's other guys too that have a lot of deep knowledge that are at that level that aren't maybe as recognized. And Phil is one of those people for sure. So.
I think he's gonna be.
It's waves. Like he was probably. It's probably waves, Fuzzy. Like he probably has experienced that like a few times in his career. So it's like not, his first rodeo. He's like, oh well, it's just another cycle. They'll figure out what I did later.
That's a brilliant statement.
You a big head.
You helped make this a reality, Phil. Like you contributed. We talked about this at the Bash House. Like you made this partially possible. This whole thing, your contributions, and all of us love you for it. And you're a rock star to us. And we have nothing but kind words to say, and anything we can do to help, let us know.
Well, thanks, Steve. And I'm not necessarily the rock star. I might be the roadie, but
hey, man, about that.
This is definitely a collaborative effort.
Oh, I know. No one person deserves the fame. I'm just saying, like, don't get me wrong. Dan is the man. He has a brilliant mind. But there are other developers who are like at that level or close to that level that might not get as much fame. They just weren't in crypto for a long time. And I see you.
Well, Dan recognized it.
Oh yeah,
didn't he, Phil?
Oh yeah. So if you want to give Dan props, give Phil props too. Like, give him a roadie prop. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure that Dan was flirting with Phil half the time whenever he started learning about what Phil was able to do.
I don't think that was the case.
No. There were no roses sent to your front door.
No.
All right. Well, I guess we'll cut it to there. It was a really good discussion, guys. Really long meeting, but I guess it was really worth it. Really great discussion. So I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Could we set the next meeting at the same time next week? Same date, same day. I mean, same time. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Thanks a lot for hosting the meeting, Isaac, with the Zoom. So I'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hmm.